So I don't know how many people are, we're down on numbers that are supposed to come in, but I think for the purposes of time, I think we should get underway. So welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here. We have Ken Titmus this morning. He's going to talk us through the Fesh connection as a learning simulation tool, how it's used, what the advantages are, what are the opportunities coming out of participating in something like this, and obviously the global challenge as well, which is an experience quite different to anything that you would have done before. We've had some really good teams participate in the past. We've had winners, we've had runners up, and I think it goes without saying that if you do this, it will open your eyes to supply chain management in a completely different way. It'll suddenly make you realize how important it is for that communication, breaking down the silos, and really communicating with your fellow peers within the supply chain, and how important it is to do that regularly and to just keep in touch. So I'm going to hand you over to Ken, who is a fundi at this as well. He's been doing it for many, many years. He's a certified instructor, has participated, I think, every year in the Global Challenge. They have a special category for instructors. So Ken is going to take you through the session. I really hope you enjoy it. And I really hope that some of you will think about signing up for this next round in preparation for the Global Challenge. So Ken, please take it away. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tanya. I just want to get my pointer going here. There we go. Okay. So yeah, welcome to this session this afternoon on the Global Professional Challenge for the Fesh Connection. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ken Titmus. As you can see, I'm a bit of a certification junkie here. But I think it's important because I teach a lot of these programs, and it really indicates the depth and the breadth of knowledge that one needs in supply chain management. So apart from being a Fesh Connection certified trainer, I'm also a master instructor for APEX and the Demand Driven Institute and the ISCA and a number of other companies as well, like VCare. Up until about 18 months ago, I was spending a lot of my time outside Cape Town, where I live, but also outside the country. And I've had the opportunity to present courses and do consulting with many, many companies around the world, as you can see here. Very active in SAPEX over the last 30 years. I think this conference coming up in August, the SAPEX conference, will be my 33rd. And I've never missed one. And I tell you, I always learn something new at these conferences. So I've been a board member of SAPEX and president twice as well. So the ultimate learning experience really is the Fesh Connection. I've been involved with the Fesh Connection for, yeah, as Tanya says, for a number of years as a trainer. The InChange, the company that provides the Fesh Connection, has two other simulations as well. They have the Cool Connection, which adds a lot more of the financial aspects of supply chain into the simulation. And they also have the Blue Connection, which is about circularity. And so those are a couple of other games that you can perhaps have a look at as well. I think more recently we've learned that we can do a lot of stuff online. Up until a year and a half ago, pretty well I was doing all the training, the Fesh Connection training face-to-face with teams in companies. But we've had to learn how to do things online over the last year or so. And so mostly now the training I've been doing has been online. And we can do that because the software itself is cloud-based, and all you need is a browser to be able to get in and a login, and we can start training you. It's been used for over 10 years. This is the 10th year, I think, of the Fesh Connection Global Professional Challenge. And as you can see here, like 40% of the Fortune's top 100 manufacturers have taken part. 50% of the Gartner's supply chain top 25 have taken part. 40% of the global top 10 third-party logistics providers have taken part. It's used in more than 100 countries around the world. There's a student challenge as well that takes place at the same time. And there are 700 universities around the world that use the Fesh Connection in their training programs, in their educational programs. Something like 25,000 students a year go through the Fesh Connection training, and about 5,000 professionals in industry. And there's about 70 channel partners or Fesh Connection partners around the world that are promoting the Fesh Connection. So what's in Change's Fesh Connection approach? Well, what we find in many companies is that there's a lack of alignment in the business. We have the sales, we have operations, we have supply chain, we have purchasing, and they're all off doing their own thing. And there's very little collaboration between these silos within our business. And the Fesh Connection teaches this fantastically, because if you do not collaborate in the Fesh Connection, you are not going to succeed. And so it teaches that collaboration is very important. And quite often, maybe there's some provocative questions that we can ask in our business. Are sales promising the moon to our marketplace without considering the trade-offs in our business? Are we going to be able to achieve that? Finance is saying, well, I've spent 10 million Rand on inventory. I've got sufficient inventory as far as the Rand value is concerned, but we generally have too much of the wrong stuff and not enough of the right stuff. What about operations? Do they lack flexibility, or are they focusing on low cost, large production runs, trying to keep the cost down, where our strategy is perhaps going to be one of flexibility? Procurement, what about procurement? Often they report to finance, and how do they get measured? The ability to buy at less than standard cost. So they're out there buying low value, high volume components to try and keep the cost down. And so we don't have alignment of our strategy in our business. And not only that, but I find in many businesses the KPIs are not correct. They're measuring the wrong things that don't support the strategy. So in the Fesh Connection, we have purchasing, we have operations, we have sales, and we have the supply chain. And if we're not careful, purchasing is there trying to keep the spend low, selecting suppliers that offer maybe the lowest prices, large quantities to get price breaks, to get those discounts. Maybe quality is being compromised. And there's no real focus on the total cost of ownership of that material that we buy. What about in operations? Well, operations could be measured on their utilization or their ability to keep the costs low. So they're looking at high utilizations, just keep the machines running no matter what the cost. We've got to get the lowest unit cost coming out of the factory. So long runs, minimum changeovers, long lead times, and absolutely no focus on the customer. On the sales side, we have to satisfy the customer at all costs. So we give them fantastic things, and can we actually deliver? And we find a lot in the Fesh Connection. One of the first things you have to focus on is delivering what you promise, and that's very important. So sales is looking for high service levels. They're looking for the larger portfolio, the better. They're looking for a lot of flexibility, but is the strategy in the rest of our business going to support that? What about the supply chain itself? Preventing excesses and shortages at the same time. We need the right inventory at the SKU level and not at the financial level. So there's a lot of trade-offs here, and this is one thing we learn in the Fesh Connection as well, the trade-offs. We do something.
Ken, you're on mute.
Sorry, I lost connection there for a while, did I?
Yeah, you did.
And you can see the presenter view now, can't you?
Correct. Your whiteboard
Yeah.
is
I know I've lost the whiteboard here as well. That's also gone for a ball of chalk. Hold on, let me just get out to the. Why doesn't that want to come out? Can you just see the one slide now? Hello, anybody there?
yeah, you can.
Yep.
Okay. Just want to get rid of this here. Okay, all right, let me carry it on like this. All right, so we get this misalignment in our businesses. So in today's world, companies have to deal with a lot of this misalignments. We have these functional silos where the functions are trying to optimize their function without necessarily understanding how that is impacting their supply chain. We have corporate strategy and we have a supply chain strategy, and often these are not in alignment either. We have strategy and execution. Are we executing according to that strategy as well? We also have partners in the supply chain. We have suppliers, we have customers, and we have to make sure that our strategy is working for these partners. We have stakeholder conflicts. We have long and short-term goals. How are we going to satisfy the stakeholders or the shareholders this month, but still have a business that's going to be running and profitable in the next few years? So often too little time is reserved to maybe step back and think about how things can be done better. Noise constantly requires that attention. We've had a lot of noise over the last week as well, haven't we? So misalignment is counterproductive in our businesses. As far as productivity is concerned, the majority of our employees are far, far from the boardroom view. And the handover of the organizational goals can be like a game of telephones. You know, so the message gets changed as it goes down this, the structure in your business. Hence, people end up maybe doing tasks that are really unrelated to the strategy. What about your employee engagement? People have a desire to see how their work contributes to reaching companies' goals, I think. Gallup poll recently found that 70% of workers are less engaged, but not really seeing the goal that they're going for in the business. And losing engagement means that you're losing your biggest asset in your business, which is your people. Hence, profits are going to suffer. The best people might be contributing work that doesn't really align to your strategy, so that's a kind of waste. And higher employee turnover and absenteeism as a result of disengagement. And then cost containment versus cost alignment resembles the efficiency versus effectiveness. Let's go back and look, how do we learn to ride a bicycle? Did we learn by theory? Did our parents give us a lecture? Did they show us a slideshow? Did they make us read the manual? Or was there a test afterwards about how well we understood the theory of riding a bike? Or did we do it by learning? And I've got a scar on my left knee here to prove that I learned how to ride a bike by doing it. And this is the best way to be learning. We know that if we listen to somebody, we're probably going to learn or retain about less than 10% of what we listen to. If we see something, maybe 20%, but as soon as we start experiencing something, then that can get up to about 80%. And so learning by experience, it has a lasting effect on us. And this is where the Fresh Connection scores. So if we're learning by experiential learning, probably 24 hours in an ER department is probably better than sitting in a lot of lectures for doctors. Flight simulators for pilots on aircraft, role plays, business simulations like the Fresh Connection, And for many, many years, I've used Lego as far as teaching people, as far as the lean game, lean is concerned. And remember the MIT bear game, teaching us how the bullwhip effect happens in our supply chains. And this is a medical competencies, the Miller's pyramid. But they say by knowing or knows how, we're answering multiple choice questions down here, which don't necessarily give us the skills we need. It's only when we start showing or demonstrating our learning or performance integrated into praxis, actually going out there and doing it. So I think the Fesh Connection is sitting in the show area here, demonstrating by learning, and then we can take that back into our business and we can then start applying it. So there's a strategy, there's a need for a purpose in your business. We need a strategy, we need to know what the objectives are and how to put that strategy into action. But then we need this cross-functional ability to manage our supply chains within our business. We need to be talking across these silos. We need to be communicating. We need to get rid of these functional silos and conflicting objectives in our business. And we need to understand the trade-offs within roles and across our roles as well, because something happening down in procurement is going to affect sales and maybe operations and supply chain as well. So we need to understand what these trade-offs are. Fesh Connection helps us to do that. So by using serious games, I think the word game sort of implies that we're having a bit of fun. Well, we are having some fun, but a serious game is we're actually learning while we're having fun as well. So the Fesh Connection is very interactive. It facilitates reflection and a lot of discussion between the roles. It facilitates direct application. So we can put something into the simulation and we can see how it works. And then we have visibility of cause and consequences. Oh, this has happened because we did that. But it's very dynamic, it's very competitive, and it is a lot of fun as well. And when you play the game, you're generally in a pool with other teams, and there's a lot of competition between these teams, believe me, particularly when I run it in-house at companies where we have 3 or 4 teams competing, it becomes very competitive.
Hi, I'm Bob, CEO of the Fesh Connection. Welcome, thanks for coming. I would have liked to have welcomed you from behind the desk of a successful, flourishing company, but unfortunately things have changed. Last year we had a crisis, but we managed to turn it around and get the results we wanted, get it back on track. The key to success was implementing the right supply chain strategic and tactical decisions. We have recently acquired a new subsidiary, but this business is threatening to be a disaster. The business is too small to survive. We need to make this business grow, and we need to make it grow fast. The company has been in business for more than a century, but it's going to be really hard to guarantee the continuity of the Fesh Connection. Our production methods are state-of-the-art and use traditional recipes. We use the best fruit and almost exclusively natural ingredients. A household name and a surprise every day. The Fesh Connection's fruit juices are very healthy and full of vitamins. They're made from the best fruits, kiwis, mangoes, apples, and oranges. For years, we've been working with largely the same domestic small-scale fruit growers, where the fruit is washed, stoned, pureed, and then shipped. The fruit is mixed at our plant. This is how the Fesh Connection creates its unique taste variations. Cartons and bottles are filled and labeled, ready for consumption by hundreds and thousands of consumers. Competition these days is murderous. We have to fight for every supplier, we have to fight for every customer. And what we've learned from this is the business as usual model just doesn't work anymore. We have to challenge the way we do business completely. I'm glad that you and your team are here today because we need to take action urgently. Maybe one of you can tell me how to get the Fesh Connection back on track. Tell me, what are the best strategic decisions for the supply chain? What do we have to do to survive in the long term? Where do our chances lie? I'll give you a few years, but I want you to focus entirely on the right strategic and tactical decisions. That's why you're here as a supply chain professional. It'll be tough, but a supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And right now, we are the weakest link. I'm giving you and your team all the freedom you need to make radical changes. I'm fully prepared to adapt the entire supply chain on one condition, that the return on investment is as high as possible. I fully trust that your team can turn this business around and get it back on track. Are you ready for the challenge?
Okay, yeah, sorry about the sound issue there. Are you ready for the challenge? Well, the Fesh Connection is a supply chain learning experience, and it's built around a cross-functional business simulation. And so it's cloud-based, as I mentioned. So all you need is a browser and we get your login. We have teams of 4, and we have a VP of purchasing, operations, supply chain, and sales. And between the 4 of you, you have to make these strategic and tactical decisions to turn this company around. There are a number of different levels and extensions and variants of the game which you can actually play. We're going to start off by playing basically the basic one. So as we said, strategy. The first thing you need to do in the Fesh Connection is to determine what your strategy is. And you can go 2 ways. You can be a low-cost provider of fruit juices, or you can be a very flexible company that really is giving the customers what they want when they want it. And you can win the game. You can achieve high return on investment by taking either of those strategies. But once we have that strategy, then we need to have that alignment within our business. We need to have that cross-functionality managing the supply chain. Sales and operations planning, demand planning, capacity, inventory, collaboration, etc. We need to get rid of those silos and all work to the same strategic goal. And we need to understand what the trade-offs are within our own roles and across the roles as well. So the Fesh Connection, as you heard on the video there, was a producer of fruit juices in the Netherlands, and it's suffering from severe losses in recent years because of poor performance. And you're going to come in as a completely new management team, and your objective is to turn this company around, making strategic and tactical decisions. You need to turn this company around. You're presented with this company, it has a negative return on investment, and you've got to get it into a positive return in investment as quickly as possible. So there are these 4 roles. We have the VP of purchasing, who's responsible for selecting the right suppliers and agreeing on service levels with those suppliers and possible collaboration options as well. And then we got the VP of operations. They must decide on capacity in the warehouses, production areas, and approve investment in the bottling lines and mixers, and can introduce various improvement projects in the factory. And they also have the ability to outsource the outbound warehousing facilities to a third-party logistics provider. And then we have supply chain, VP of supply chain. They manage the inventories, the safety stocks, the lot sizing settings, the production intervals. How often do we want to build a product? And the frozen period that we're going to put into production. And then lastly, we have sales. Their job is to agree the service level agreements with the customers, managing the product and customer profiles, forecasting demand, and they can also introduce some collaboration concepts as well with the customers. So we start off with 5 components that we have to buy. We have to buy orange pulp, mango pulp, vitamin C, and 2 packaging items, 1 liter cardboard packaging or box packaging, and the other one is the PET bottles. These are then received into a receiving area and into a receiving store. If we don't have enough room, we can go to an overflow store, but it costs us a lot more money. And then in the factory, we have mixing of the juices and then the bottling of those juices. And we produce 6 different products. Okay, in the 1 liter cartons, we have orange, sea power, and we have orange and mango mix. And then we have the same products in the PET bottles. Again, we have an overflow warehouse if we don't have enough space. But again, it's going to cost you more money. And then we have three basic customers. We had food and grocery, which is a large supermarket chain. And they take both the 1 liter and the 300 milliliter bottles. We also have a Landmark, which is more of a big box discounter. And they take also the 1 liter and PET bottles as well. And the third group of customers we have is with petrol stations, where they have these small shops, Dominic's, and they only sell the 300 milliliter bottle for people that come in and they want a quick refreshment while they're filling the car up with juice. So that gives us a little bit on the supply chain there. But where are we getting our raw materials and components from? Well, initially the setup is such that you're buying your oranges from Miami, you're getting your mangoes from Spain, you're getting your vitamin C from China, you're getting your PET bottles from Spain, and you're getting your cartons, the 1 liter cartons, from France. And as we said before, the factory itself is sitting in the Netherlands. That's the initial setup, but that doesn't mean to say that you have to stick with those suppliers. There is a supplier market, and you can go and look at other suppliers, and you can change the supplier. When it comes to pricing, we use in the Fresh Connection what we call a contract index. So on the purchasing side, we have a basic price for a component. And depending on the negotiations you have with the supplier, the contracting index will either go up or down. So if we want a lot from our supplier, maybe as far as payment terms are concerned, or high quality, or whatever it might be, then the supplier could charge us more money. So the contract index would go up and we'd be paying a higher price. Whereas if we say we want less quality, we'll give them six weeks terms for payment, maybe the contract index will go down, or we'll be paying less for the product. So this is quite an important thing when you look at the suppliers. Look at the contract index, because it's going to determine how much you're going to be paying for your raw materials and components. When it comes to storage and the components and raw materials come in, we have a tank yard which can store tanks of pulp, orange or mango pulp. We also have an inbound pallet warehouse, which for palletized materials, the packaging materials, the PET bottles, the 1 liter cartons. And sometimes we might buy pulp in drums, or maybe in those 1,000 liter IBCs, which take up a pallet space. We also have an outbound pallet warehouse for our finished products. So we palletize all our finished products. And so we have a warehouse that takes those. But we also have overflow warehouses, as I mentioned. But that's going to cost you 4 times what it costs you keeping it in your own warehouse. So you need to determine how big these warehouses should be. We have in the production area itself, we have a 2-stage, as we said, mixing and bottling operation. There's no storage in between mixing and bottling. So we mix and we bottle directly afterwards. We start off the simulation with 1 bottling line and 1 mixer for all products, but at a later stage down the line, we might be able to buy different machines, or we can buy extra machines if we want to. All our products are made to stock, and there's a 1-day lead time. So they have to be in stock so that we can deliver the next day. As we mentioned, there's 2 types of packaging, 1 liter cartons and 300 ml PET bottles. And there are 3 flavors: orange mixed with the vitamin C, giving us orange C power, and then we've got orange and mango mixed. Now, one of the important things about this simulation is that the product shelf life is 20 weeks. Now, this is very important because when we start, we give the customers 75% of the shelf life. That means that they've got at least 15 weeks of shelf life. and we mustn't have anything longer than 5 weeks in our warehouse. If it goes over 5 weeks, then we have to destroy the product. And again, you've got to spend money, you've got to rebuild it again. So that's going to cost you a lot of money. So we don't want to have product going outside its shelf life, particularly inside the factory. We can change that shelf life agreement with your customers. You can give them more shelf life, or you can give them less shelf life. It's going to affect the contract index then. So as we mentioned, there are three major customers. We've got food and grocery, there's 500 stores, and they're a supply chain supermarket leader. And then we've got the Landmark, which is more of a discounter, big box discounter. They've got 300 stores, and then we've got 50 of these stores which are attached to filling stations, but they only take the PET bottles. Again, on the sales side, we have this contract index, and as I mentioned, the more we offer to our customers, the higher the price. So look at the contract index, and the bigger the contract index, the more we are promising the customers. But just make sure you deliver what you promise, because if you don't, you're going to get penalties. Okay. So what about the performance? Remember, Bob says we've got to have the highest return on investment. So we've got to be looking at the revenue coming into the business. How satisfied are our customers? Are they getting what we promised them? What sort of volume of sales are we getting as well? And then on the investment side, we're looking at the inventories that we're having to hold, the payment terms that we're getting with our suppliers and our customers, and the machines we have and the buildings, etc., those fixed costs that we've got in the business. And then we've got the operational costs and any costs for improvement projects that we might be putting into the factory. Every round in the Fresh Connection is basically half a year. It's about 6 months in steady state. So you don't have to worry about fading in or fading out of effects from one round to another. And an out of stock is not a missed sale. You will be delivering it later as the stock comes in, but you're going to get a penalty because your performance is not going to be up to scratch, depending on what you have promised to the customers. Remember, the teams are competing in a pool, but they've really got their own market space, their own marketplace. So although you're competing for suppliers and for customers, you're not really doing that externally, you're competing internally. So what about the interface? Well, this is what the Fresh Connection looks like when you log on. And I'll go through in a little bit more detail now, but on each role here, you can go in and have a look at what's happening in that role. You can get reports coming out, and you can see how you're doing compared to the other teams in your pool. And of course, we have the financial aspects here. So this is always really the first place to go and have a look. Financially, what's happening in this business? Where do we need to focus? So the Fresh Connection is not necessarily only the global professional challenge. You can use it within your businesses for training purposes. And we need to understand what the learning objective is going to be, because there's a number of different topics and themes and complexity that we can put into the game. It's very flexible in the way that we can set it up. We need to understand the background of the participants and any other budget constraints maybe. And then we can look at delivery formats and program lengths and things. So we can design a program to actually suit your requirements in-house. And there are a number of different themes. We're going to be looking at the training that we're going to do on the sales and operations planning and the external collaboration. But there are many other themes that have been put together, mainly during the global challenges over the last 10 years. They put different things into the simulation. And more recently, we've been looking at carbon footprints and supply risk management and logistics footprints. This year, the theme is resilience, risk and resilience. They're putting these two together, risk and resilience in the supply chain. So in the game, you're going to get thrown some curved balls about all sorts of things, maybe pirates or ships getting stuck in Suez Canal, or fruit flies in Miami, or even truckers going on strike in Europe, or maybe even within your own organization, your warehouse, having a strike of the personnel working in your distribution warehouse, for example. So they're going to be throwing things at you, and you've got to try and recover from these. So there are a lot of different formats with the training. We can run an afternoon awareness session, or typical training would last at least a day, or we'd probably run three rounds of the game, or very much more advanced training or internal challenges within your organization. There are lots of different possible setups we can do. What we're going to do for the training, the 4 rounds of the training, is we're going to have 1.5 an hour or an hour and a half kickoff program, and then I'll leave you with your teams to go and configure the Fesh connection in the way you think it's going to happen. And then next week we'll come back and have a debrief and have a look at the next few things we've added into the Fesh connection. And then you've got a week with your team to decide what you want to do. And then the same thing will happen for the 3rd and the 4th week as well. When it comes to the Fesh Connection Global Challenge, you actually get 2 weeks. There's no briefing, there's no debriefing. Yeah, the game opens and you get in there and you have to make your changes. And then you're given 2 weeks. Okay, so each round there will be 3 rounds of the Global Challenge, and each of those rounds will be 2 weeks for you to sit down and work out what you want to do. So just to give you a rough idea in the levels that we have in the game, we'll start off the training with the first 3 levels. We'll put all these in together. So we're going to be talking about reliability, batches and production frequencies, speed and quality. That will be the first round. On top of that, we'll then put on Extension A, which looks at sales and operations planning. So we'll maybe be able to go in and do some dual sourcing or raw materials, perhaps. In operations, we can add or discard mixers and bottling lines. And in the supply chain, there's a production interval tool in there that helps us make some decisions. And on the sales side, we can be looking at category management, promotions, and a little bit more on forecasting. In the 3rd week, we'll add in Extension B, which is the external collaboration, which means that on the procurement side, you can start looking at some supplier development, or you can do vendor managed inventory, perhaps. In operations, instead of buying an inflated PET bottle, we can do the inflation within our own plant and then fill it. Or we could do outsourcing of our finished goods warehouse to a third-party logistics provider. Or on the sales side, we can look at promotions, more depth into promotions, and maybe even vendor managed inventory with some of our customers. So that's what we'll be doing for the training. There are lots of different variants, as I said, of the training. We've got constraint management and supply chain risk and logistics footprints, etc. So this whole simulation can be designed and configured in a way to suit your particular training within your organization if you need it. So what does it look like? Right, as we said, when you log into the Fesh Connection, this is what it looks like. Here's your factory, we've got procurements, operations, sales, and we've got supply chain. Down the bottom here, you can see what your score is compared to the average score in the pool in which you are playing. And there are some other metrics here. These are the purchasing metrics that we can see here. And you can see how your metrics compare to the other teams that are playing as far as procurement is concerned. So when you're playing the Fesh Connection and the Global Challenge, you'll get emails coming in your inbox up here. and they'll be telling you things that you need to focus on or things that might be happening. And you need to read these very carefully and take them into consideration. You'll also get some information about bills of materials, what actually goes into your products, shelf life problems, the week in shelf lives, it's all 20 weeks. The number of products you can get on a pallet, okay, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of information which you get on the information tab here. There's also an information center, so you can go and search in here and look for anything that you might be looking for or that you don't understand. We said before that probably one of the most important things is the finance tab here. Here you can see this game has been running. They've just done the 4th round here. This was the 3rd round. So this is what happened in the last round. And this is the financial situation in the new round. So we can see that they improved their return on investment from 3.43 to 5.75. However, I can see here that they got quite a lot of penalties here with their customers. They had some bonuses last time, but now we got some penalties. Now I can expand this down and I can see where these penalties are coming from, and maybe go and fix that. So I can see the realized revenue was actually slightly less, but they did manage to reduce their purchasing costs and production costs, and the gross margin actually grew very slightly. So that was how they managed to get a better return on investment. And there's a lot more on the financial side there as well. Then if we look at purchasing, what have we got in purchasing? Well, we've got our agreements with our suppliers here. So here's our supplier for the 1 liter packaging. And these are the things that we can negotiate on, all right? And we get a contract index, here we go, 1.0220. So we're paying a little bit more than the basic price for this particular packaging. If I want to change, I can go into my supplier market and I can change my supplier if I want to. Down here, these screens look the same for all of the 4 roles. Down on the bottom left here, you'll get some reports that you can look at. And on the dashboard here, you'll get the return on investment, and you'll get the 3 metrics that report that are there for procurement. And you can see how you compare with the other people in your pool. So the little diamond is where you are, and the average of the rest of the pool is the solid line here. So you also get a little trend graph on the side to see whether you're getting better or worse. Same thing happens in operations here. We've got the inbound warehouse, number of pallet locations, number of full-time employees, the intake time, that's the dock to stock time. We can put on raw material inspection. We then can go in and look at mixing and bottling and the outbound warehouse and make decisions as well. And again, we've got reporting down in the bottom left-hand corner here, and we've got our dashboard of performance metrics for our role and on the top left side here. Sales was the same. Here we've got our agreements with our customers. Again, you can see here's the contract index here for food and grocery. It's 1.065. So we're getting a little bit more for our product than the basic price, because we're promising a lot more. I can see that this team here decided on a service level of 98% and to give the customer 80% of the shelf life. So they're giving them a bit more shelf life. And so we're getting a better price for it. You can go into order management, which looks at the shortage rules that you might have, and you've got category management that you determine which products do you want to sell to which customers. And then you've got forecasting here as well. And then on the supply chain side, we look at the components. We look at safety stock levels. We look at lot sizes for procurement of those particular products. We look at production, at how often we want to build those products. and we have a look at the finished products as well as far as safety stocks and lot sizes are concerned. And then you do have rankings, so you can see where you are in your team compared to other teams. And you can look at individually to see if you're now the procurement vice president, how well are you doing compared with the other purchasing vice presidents as well. So the plan is that round one of the training for the Global Professional Challenge will take place starting on the 13th of August. And we'll have a basic introduction, and then I will leave you for a week to go and make decisions with your team. And then on the 20th, we'll come back and we'll have a look at your results. We'll have a bit of a debrief, and then we'll look at adding in those extra couple of things into the simulation as far as sales and operations planning and alignment are concerned. And then we'll leave you for a week again, and we'll come back on round 3 on the 27th and have a debrief again and have a look at some extra things that we can put in, like that external collaboration. And then we'll leave you for a week again, and then come back around 4, we'll have a debrief again. And we're not going to make any more changes to the simulation, just allowing you to sort of hone up what you've got and try and get some improvement on your return on investment. The 3 rounds of the Global Professional Challenge will start on the 13th of September. So we'll get you all the logins and everything. And normally on the Monday morning at noon, the game opens and you get 2 weeks. The Friday before the next 2 weeks, the game closes normally at 5 o'clock or in the afternoon. And then they do the calculations over the weekend. And then on the following Monday, you can go and have a look at your results. So there will be those 3 rounds, each round 2 weeks, so the whole thing will last 6 weeks. And those teams that get the highest return on investment will be invited to take part in the Global Challenge Final, which will be in November. Now, in the past, these have been face-to-face challenges, and teams have traveled to places. I think the last one was in Greece. This was supposed to be in Amsterdam, but with the problems we have with traveling, it's going to be done virtually. Last year it was done virtually, but the advantage of the virtual final is that we can put a lot more teams into the final. They haven't finally decided how many, but normally there's only about 10 teams in the final, but they can probably double that easily in the virtual final. And it's a really great virtual conferencing tool they're using. If anybody's seen it, it's what they call 3D. It's Verbella conferencing. And you actually set yourself up as an avatar, and you can actually wander around the conference center and you can see people, or you want to try and find somebody, type their name in and it takes you to them. It really is a fantastic virtual conferencing tool, and they'll be using that again this year. So we're all looking forward to that. And that kind of brings me to the end. Do we have any questions, Tonya?
There's nothing that I can see in the chat.
Okay. I see somebody saying, can we share the slides? Yeah, I'll send you the presentation and you can get that out to them.
Does anybody have any questions that they have for Ken today, or would you like to take this information away and mull over it all and then come back with some questions?
Costs related to the Fresh Connection. Oh, Felix. Felix, you're in Kenya, I think, are you? Yes, okay. Yeah, Tonya, maybe you can get back to Felix and let him know what it's going to cost. Look at it's in rands at the moment. What did we say, 18,000 for a team, was it?
Yeah, it's 18,000 for a team and 5,000 Rand if you sign up as an individual person to join a team.
Yeah, otherwise we'll have to find some other individuals to put together with you to form a team. So it's much better if you can get a team within your own organization to come and learn together, and then you can perhaps go back into your organization and apply some of the things that you've learned. Any other questions? You can unmute your mic, I guess, and ask verbally if you wish.
Ken, just remind me, when is the next start round? What is the date?
What did I have there? Well, 13th of August.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's just lots going on, so I'm just trying to remember what's happening where and when. And okay, so you've
Yeah,
still
so
got time. You've still got time to get on board with that next round of Fresh Connection, starting the 13th of August. That's really just it's a session much like this, Ken, where you do an introduction to Fresh Connection,
Yeah.
and how the game needs to be played. And then after that, they are weekly sessions.
Yeah, well, there'll be 4 weekly sessions for the training, and then they're bi-weekly or 2 weekly sessions for the actual Fresh Connection. But ideally, we'd like teams to register, say, a week before the 13th, because I've got to get logins organized, etc., for everybody, and make sure everybody can get in and they can access the Fresh Connection.
Yeah, so if you've got any other questions about Fresh Connection, please feel free to drop me a mail, drop Ken a mail. We're here to answer any questions. We'd obviously like to get a few of you to participate in the game. And we look forward to seeing those registrations come in. But yeah, I think if there's no other questions, thank you all for attending this morning. I hope the session was informative and added value to you in terms of understanding what tools are out there to learn more about supply chain in a more effective way than just going through a course, but really experiencing a more practical way of learning. So thanks for being here. Stay safe and stay well, everybody, and we will hopefully see you in one of our new sessions or your registration coming in. Thanks, Ken, for the session.
Okay,
for doing the sharing the information, and
yeah.
we'll see you very soon.
Thanks so much.
Okay, good.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.
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 Cheers, bye. Thanks a lot, bye.